What's up, everyone? It's Karthik with MoneyVest. Welcome on board for our Monday morning market live stream. And we've got lots of things going on here pre-market, as Nvidia is also higher by 2% pre-market after sales being approved to the UAE. And also crypto is dropping with IREN signing a deal with Microsoft as well. And of course is ripping higher, a 24% surge after signing a $9.7 billion contract with Microsoft for AI cloud capacity as well, getting up to new all-time highs at almost $74. So it looks like we're going to have to roll this IREN call a little bit farther, right? And that's before the earnings are supposed to come out later this week. So Thursday, November 6th is when the earnings are supposed to take place. Today, of course, the main focus is going to be on Palantir, which is also sitting at a brand new all-time high at over 2.5% higher, $205 per share, is going to be reporting earnings after the bell, after the markets close today at almost 17 cents per share is the earnings expected, and revenues of well over $1 billion, so topping over $1 billion. For the second quarter in a row. Of course, last quarter, Palantir hit a record by over $1 billion in revenue for the first time ever. In fact, if you come over to the quarterly numbers, we were just about $1 billion for Palantir in the second quarter of 2025. So expectations for today are just shy of 1.1 billion for revenue with about 17 cents in earnings per share. And I have no doubt that Palantir is going to blow it out of the water with some pretty good guidance as well. So if you guys can see me and hear me, just give me a thumbs up. Just want to make sure the audio and the video is good. As I said, we've got lots to discuss as Nvidia stock is also climbing 2% as US approves the chip sale to the UAE under the Microsoft deal. So Microsoft said Monday it has secured the export licenses to ship Nvidia chips to the United Arab Emirates in a move that could accelerate the Gulf's lofty AI ambitions. And I'll tell you, the UAE here, Dubai and Abu Dhabi, they've both really pledged to build some of the biggest data centers here in the Middle East, not to mention one of the biggest ones in Asia as well. We've got a lot of space and we've got a lot of money, right? So those two things the UAE definitely has. And there are very, very ambitious plans to have a very pro-AI and pro-crypto policies here in the UAE. Of course, for somebody who's on the ground actually seeing the developments, there is a lot of potential growth here. And as a result, of course, Nvidia is benefiting from that. The tech giant said it's the first company under the US President Donald Trump's administration to secure such licenses from the Commerce Department, and that the approval granted in September was based on a updated and stringent technology safeguards, and the licenses enable the firm to ship an equivalent of 60,400 additional A100 chips, including Nvidia's darling advanced GB300 GPUs as well. And while the chips are powerful and the numbers are large, more important is their positive impact across the UAE. We're using these GPUs to provide access to advanced AI models for OpenAI, Anthropic, open source providers, and Microsoft as well. So there's a very important relationship between the UAE and the US and governments that has spanned multiple administrations. Microsoft President Brad Smith told CNBC at the ADIPEC conference in Abu Dhabi as well. We're very grateful to the Secretary of Commerce and the work that has championed to enable export licenses to be made available to us. And that builds us well on the relationships we've had with Secretary Marco Rubio when he was in the Senate and Democrats. It takes two parties to govern, and we keep that in mind moving forward. And of course, earnings are still going to be front and center as November trading kicks off. We are on a 6-month winning streak after last 6 months, S&P 500 up over 44%. So this has been a incredible momentum coming in for the market, as volatility also did open higher, but we are seeing a little bit of a pullback intraday, getting back in the mid to low 16s. I also do want to show you the CNN Fear and Greed Index, which I believe to be not very accurate anymore, because we were talking about this in our Discord, and earlier it was actually showing you fear, right? So you can see that there's previous close was in fear. It was at 35, right? And so I've got a question for you. Is there fear out in the market? Is there actual fear? Can you sense the fear in this market? Because I sure can't. There's a lot of euphoria, there's a lot of momentum, and there's a lot of greed still out there for a lot of these stocks. So I don't believe that this market is anywhere near close to fear at the moment, let alone extreme fear. So, our index obviously is pointing more towards optimism, neutral to optimism levels, as volatility is back down, and of course, markets are also sitting at near all-time highs. So that's the entire rundown. Again, welcome everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining here. Good morning from Texas, Carlos. A shout out to you, Mike, Akash, Zen, everybody, Fernando. Thank you so much for joining. It's good to be back. Hope everyone have a profitable last week here. How are renewables thought of in the UAE for the power generation for those data centers? So I think it's going to be very much focused on solar and wind. That's what the UAE is also focusing on. But we, of course, have Abu Dhabi's got a lot of fossil fuels, so like a lot of oil and gas. Qatar obviously is the biggest supplier of natural gas, but Abu Dhabi is like really big. I think it's a third in the world in terms of supply for oil. So that is still going to be the primary source of energy, but it is also moving more and more into renewable energy as well. Can you imagine how crazy things will be once the gauge catches up and hits euphoria? I know. I mean, if the market breadth starts to improve, and we start to see the volume pick up in this market, then I am pretty confident that our MoneyVest index is going to be at optimism and even in greed. We haven't really hit greed all this year. I mean, we came very close in July, 3.97, and then we were at 3.99 on July 3rd, so almost there in greed back in July. 3.99, we got up to 3.97. And since then, we've really kind of been topped out at 3.85, 3.8, 3.8 here, and 3.7. So we really haven't seen greed or euphoria in this market, because the momentum's been incredibly strong and we've slowly and steadily kind of grinding higher, but there hasn't really been a greed or euphoria in this market. It's been optimistic throughout the year, especially after the April panic, 1.76, we came down to that level at a couple touch points and then boom, just rallied back higher, 40% gains from those levels. But we've really just been kind of drifting upwards on very nice dip buying opportunities. We did get down to neutral a couple times, 3.29 here, 3.18, and a couple of Fridays ago, we came down to uncertainty pre-market, right? So it's kind of interesting that we were below 3.5, we were closer to 3.4, 3.45, and then recovering back higher. So that's where we are. That I think is the appropriate level for the market right now. Is a very good read on where the market is and what's going to happen in the future. Of course, we'll make those decisions accordingly. But yeah, we're nowhere near close to fear. Obviously, nothing close to extreme fear either. So that's, I think, where I would say we are. Okay, let's quickly do some updates on crypto and some individual stocks, and then I'll come over to the comments and we'll dissect some of these individual stocks as well. Of course, this is the state of crypto. Bitcoin sitting at just over $107,000, $108,000. As mentioned earlier, we are seeing a lot of consolidation in that range. So we're essentially trading sideways, up and down all over the place. And if this support level starts to break down at about $107,000, then the next target is going to be closer to $100,000, right? So it's going to be in the low 100s for Bitcoin. This support of about 107. So I'll go ahead and put down a support level right there. If you break down below 107, the next target is going to be $100,000 for Bitcoin. For Ether also starting to break down a little bit. In fact, it's testing down to that support of 3,700. So this right here, we've tested that level a couple times already. And if you do get a breakdown, next support is going to be 3,400. So that right there, kind of aligned with this previous areas of support, is going to be that level to watch right now. Like I said, we are seeing a lot of consolidation sideways in that range for Ether, and a breakdown could potentially send us down at 3,400 for Ether moving forward. Coming over to IREN. So the game plan for IREN is going to be to potentially acquire some more shares and do a couple of buy rights. That's what I'm actually planning. I am also planning for Meta as a potential trade there, but it's starting to move back higher already. I was really hoping for like a 3-day rule where Meta gaps down heavily, sells off on Friday, sells off on Monday, and that's the 3-day rule. And that's when I can dollar cost average on some more weakness to acquire more shares and then to sell some calls later this week on the bounce. It looks like we're starting to see a little bit of that recovery already. but it's going to be on my watch list for today to see if there's any weakness, if I can pick it up in the low 640s or possibly even in the 630s. Of course, it would require Meta to drop maybe another 2.5%, 3% from these levels to then acquire a little bit closer to the support level. I was really expecting this support level as the anchor point for me to dollar cost average a little bit more into Meta, and then of course sell some calls on the way back up on that recovery for Meta platforms. But we'll see what happens over the course of today and of course later this week, as a lot of earnings are still coming up. And from an economic data standpoint, we don't really have much because a lot of things are just going to be delayed. But that's going to be the plan. For IREN, I'm most certainly going to be moving out my $70 calls. They're expiring for this Friday. Most likely going to be moving out a couple weeks. Earnings are also coming up for Thursday. So later this week here, so Thursday, November 6th. And right now we are just sitting at under this all-time high, right? So big deal, just shy of $10 billion worth of deal with Microsoft AI. And so resistance is going to be roughly around $73, $74. I mean, it's already hit pre-market all-time highs. And support level is going to stay at 48, 49, right? So it's got a pretty wide range. That tells you how volatile this stock really is, because it dropped over 34 to 35%, and then it's now back 53%. It's an incredibly volatile name, and that's exactly why we need to be very careful. And as I mentioned in my previous updates, among the hot watch list, IREN is one of the fewer names that is actually worth the long-term play here, because a lot of them, of course, don't have revenues. They're loss-making companies that are purely trading on momentum and a lot of sentiment here, which is extremely positive around these stocks. But IREN is one of those companies that fundamentally looks very solid, very well positioned to capitalize on the movement for this data center, for AI compute, and of course for crypto mining as well. And they're doing it all the while keeping costs really low because of their partnerships and of course agreements in Texas, in Canada, with the renewable energy space, right? So they're completely 100% renewable, and so their cost is low, and they're operating in a very high margin, very high growth environment. And as a result, take a look at their margin. It's 94%, right? Insane, operating leverage coming in for these companies. Okay. Okay, let's just come over to some chat here. Hi, good morning, Karte. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Sound is cutting off, breaking up, audio messed up, breaking up. Okay, if you want to restart or refresh, it should fix the audio. Let me know if it's working or if it's actually something I need to fix. But try to refresh the stream and it should work. So, okay, perfect. Audio, video, good for me as usual. Good morning. John saying audio cooked. Okay, in Bali. Richard in Bali, huh? That's great. I really want to go next summer. I will definitely be there for a little bit longer, because earlier this year I was only there for 4 or 5 days and I had the best time even in those days, but I really want to spend more time exploring Bali. So I'll definitely be there for longer. But yeah, just definitely refresh the stream and it should work. It should be fine. Okay, perfect. Great. So let's analyze some stocks, shall we? Got about 30 minutes until market opens. So if you have any companies you want me to go over, any specific stocks other than what we have already discussed, we've already gone over so many companies in our market updates. In the weekend video, I went over a lot of fan favorite names. We talked about BMNR, we talked about BITX, SoFi, Hims and Hers, Nvidia, Tesla, Palantir. All these covers, all these stocks we've already covered. Hims and Hers, Karandeep, we already talked about it, right, during the weekend video. HIMZ, Thomas, once again, Hims and Hers, it's a little bit of a leveraged stock. Already covered it during the weekend video. I really would appreciate if you guys watch that, the market update and the fan favorite, because we already cover a bunch of companies. In the market updates, we cover about 20, and then the fan favorite is another 7. So we already talk about 25 to 30 stocks on a regular basis. But anything else other than that, if there's a new stock, new company that you want me to take a look at, I'm more than happy to do that for you. Okay, Amazon is ripping. Yep, so Amazon is, nice little jump there on Amazon. 3.4%. Okay, it looks like something just came out here. And not just Amazon, there's like the entire market is starting to rip here at the moment. Yeah, that was like literally right now. Literally right now. Even the NASDAQ 100 is up almost 1%. At the moment, we got Amazon pushing up. AWS and OpenAI announced a multi-year strategic partnership. Another day, another deal. Am I right? So apparently AWS and OpenAI are announcing a strategic partnership with each other. OpenAI has agreed to pay Amazon $38 billion computing power in a multi-year deal that marks the first partnership between the startup and the cloud giant. The deal announced Monday will help satisfy OpenAI's fast-growing computing needs. Amazon expects that all the computing capacity negotiated as part of the agreement will be available to OpenAI by the end of next year, giving ChatGPT maker quick access to powerful Nvidia chips housed inside its data centers. Amazon is under pressure for investors to accelerate the growth of its AWS business. And that is one of the reasons we're seeing this huge... What is going on every single day? Every single day, it's another day, another deal coming out. And here we go. Here we go. Incredible. Incredible. So there we go. Amazon also coming out. OpenAI. How many companies is OpenAI going to partner with? How many companies or how many compute power? It's every day. It's like OpenAI, cloud companies, hyperscalers, chip companies are all in the news every single day. It's like orchestrated. Okay, today it's the day to announce these two. Tomorrow it's going to be these two. The day after it's going to be them two. Like every day it's just that. But Amazon, look at that. Another 5% gain for Amazon here. Absolutely incredible. Getting up to new all-time highs at just under 256. So if 9.5% rally on Friday after the earnings wasn't enough, well, there you have it. Another 5% gain for Amazon on the back of this deal. And QQQs are also ripping higher. Nvidia is already up 2.4%. Tesla is slightly down. And then let's take a look at some other chip companies. Advanced Micro Devices up almost 1%. Google right now, pre-market, is up over 66 basis points. Meta is up over 1% right now. So Amazon, incredible. Why does Microsoft go down because of this, though? Microsoft is slightly down about 30 basis points. I wouldn't consider this to be like down. It is selling off a little bit. They just signed a deal with IREN, right? The Microsoft Azure, AI compute for IREN. So which deal kind of tops out which, right? Obviously, Amazon and OpenAI deal is significantly more valuable and better than IREN and Azure. But nonetheless, I think they're both good in their own ways. But the bottom line is that it's just another day, another deal. That's what that is. Yeah, Amazon signs a $38 billion deal with OpenAI to supply Nvidia chips, strengthening its AI infrastructure push. And that is the big spike there for Amazon. Incredible. Gary, I got Amazon 2-year leap calls back in the day, back in the $250 price range. Thanks to Caddy. That's amazing. That's incredible. Congratulations. And I just got here Amazon and OpenAI. Yep, $38 billion. Huge deal. And we are sitting at all-time highs, almost 6% higher. Still hitting a new all-time high right now as we speak for Amazon. And what a pop. What a pop. Right at 9 a.m. Eastern, this was announced. So there we go. That's the catalyst there. The deal announced Monday will help satisfy OpenAI's fast-growing computing needs. And as part of the new 7-year pact, this is a 7-year deal, OpenAI will be able to train new AI models using Amazon's data centers and use them to process ChatGPT queries. And it could also use Amazon's central processing units, so CPUs, to power what is called agentic AI, where the technology completes tasks autonomously. The deal is tiny compared to those that OpenAI has signed with other cloud giants, which includes $300 billion deal with Oracle, $250 billion commitment to Microsoft, but it represents a key first step in Amazon's effort to ensure that its cloud business can benefit from a company that is pledging to spend trillions of dollars on computing power in the coming years. Either this is like the greatest invention and the greatest investment opportunity of our lifetime, or this is gonna crumble down like never before. Like there's nothing in the middle. There's nothing in the middle. It's either this or that. That's what it's gonna be. It's either gonna be the greatest thing ever invented, which is artificial intelligence, agentic AI, generative AI, OpenAI being at the core of this revolution, or OpenAI is just being used as a stalking horse for every company to pump their stock to all-time highs because OpenAI is not public, and they're just partnering up with them to literally, 6% of Amazon's market cap of 2.6 trillion is significantly more than what this 7-year deal is going to be worth. So 2.6 times 6%. Yeah, that's $156 billion of market cap gained in 10 minutes. In just 10 minutes, that's $150 billion. I think it's a very simple model. Every company needs to come online and just partner with OpenAI. And their stock is going to be at all-time highs. Magically. So, yeah, huge congratulations to everybody, to all the Amazon holders, all the Amazon investors, traders. This is big news. And new all-time highs for Amazon. Year to date, the stock's up almost 10%. After today, it's going to be closer to 15-16%. Still kind of trailing behind a little bit compared to the market, but this is still pretty good news for all Amazon investors. Yes, there is nothing in the middle, but I would say that this AI is a thing. I'm a programmer and I use it literally every day. It cuts down on dev time significantly. And I agree. I couldn't agree with you more, Vault. I use it every day as well. It has increased my efficiency, my productivity, a lot of things that it can do incredibly fast without the need to actually spend hours working with data and spreadsheets and doing manually. It can literally cut down on the time by significant amounts. So it obviously has increased productivity a lot. And that's why I've mentioned before in many of my videos that I do not believe that this is any kind of a bubble because there's actual value and actual revenue and cash flows there, right? Are we overestimating those future revenues? Are we overestimating the potential? Are we trading at a bit of a premium? Sure, there's definitely a debate there, but it's not a bubble. There's actual real productivity and real thing here. So it's very similar 20, 25 years ago, the rise of the internet. It's exactly that. And that's over the next 25 years are going to be even more use cases for artificial intelligence. And I believe one of the greatest, biggest opportunity hasn't even started yet. That is the robotics. That is physical AI, as Jensen Huang mentioned, obviously AI entering the physical world. And that's what Tesla is working on, with the robotics division, right? Humanoid robots and so on and so forth. And Amazon, of course, cutting their jobs to replace the manufacturing with robotics, making them more efficient, more productive. And that I think, honestly, feel like is the biggest opportunity for the long term with robotics. So, yeah, what just happened with Amazon? Well, new deal, another day, another deal. Amazon and OpenAI, $38 billion deal, 7-year contract between these two companies. And as a result, we're seeing a new all-time high. Nvidia is also pushing up, getting up to over $207, $208, just sitting at near all-time highs with QQQs pumping here. S&P 500 is up 42 basis points, but the NASDAQ, right? This has been a very, very NASDAQ concentrated rally because even if you do come over to the market concentration, it's very clear. You've got 35.5% concentration among Magnificent 7 stocks. Market cap, it is almost $22 trillion, right? So that is significant. And then top 10 are 41.4%. It's wild that less than 2% of the S&P 500 controls over 41% of the S&P 500 in terms of its market cap weight. And if this number gets up to 50% over the next, let's say, couple of years, meaning that these companies become so incredibly valuable that they're now half the entire market, I think it's just, why do we even have the other 490? It's just like, this is it. This is what's contributing to most of the gains. This is what's contributing most of the profits and returns and everything, right? This is it. This is like the top of the list of stocks that one needs to simply just focus on buying and holding, and you cut out all the fat. and they're the ones that are some of the best performing names. So yeah, that's what it is. Hims need to go ahead and announce an OpenAI partnership as well. Dutch Bros partners with OpenAI. Yeah, I mean, that's what it's going to be. MoneyVest partnership with OpenAI. That's what we're that's what we need to get our hands into, like, this partnership. Insane. Absolutely crazy. But all right, let's come back to some stocks. Let's just go over to some companies together. What do you think about TLT? So any kind of bond play, as I've already mentioned, is going to be a bet on economic weakness and recession, because the only way TLT actually rallies is if interest rates come down, and interest rates only come down if there is any kind of weakness in the labor market and there is some kind of recessionary fears. And so if you are long bonds, then you are really betting on the weakness for the economic conditions, right? So weakness in terms of the U.S. companies laying people off, unemployment starting to go up. And that's really what the entire trade ends up being. And so I just feel like there's better opportunities out there than to put money into TLT right now. So, okay. Why do we have another 490? Yeah, I mean, S&P 500, 42% of it is just 10 companies. And that number, in my opinion, is going to keep going higher. I think at some point, we're probably going to see 50%. Because if you kind of really sort this by market cap, S&P 500, if you sort this by market cap, Nvidia is going to cross back over 5 trillion. Apple hit 4 trillion for the first time. Microsoft's very close to 4 trillion. Google, 3.4. Amazon's going to open most likely around 2.7, 2.8. Amazon absolutely is going to be the next company that crosses over that threshold of $3 trillion. And then Broadcom has been like slowly and steadily kind of crept up to 1.7 trillion. It's insane. You know, I remember doing a video that the next $1 trillion company is going to be Broadcom back when it was at 800 billion. Let me see if I can bring up the video. So it was crazy, right? When we looked at it. And it was at around 800 billion back when we were analyzing it. So let's see if it opens up right here. This was the video, right? Next $1 trillion stock. This was in June of 2024. Yeah, so next $1 trillion stock on fire, June 19, 2024. Let's see. Out of its shares. So bottom line EPS negative. Yeah, Broadcom at 17.35. That was on a pre-split adjusted basis. If you come over to the technicals a little bit. Yeah, wherever it was trading at, around 1,700 on a pre-split basis, right? The market cap was around 800 billion or something. And it's just gone crazy. Absolutely wild since then. Yeah, June 2024 was right around here somewhere. 185%. Absolutely wild. Yeah, David, I bought Broadcom $36 and never looked back. That's what it is. Like, and again, coming back to what we were talking about. So Broadcom already got up to 1.7, almost 2 trillion. JP Morgan's going to be very close to $1 trillion. Tesla's going to be, I think the next milestone is $2 trillion and beyond. Meta's pulled back a little bit. It was closer to 1.7, 1.8, but just goes to show the sheer concentration of wealth over the last 7 years, because 2018, we didn't have a single company worth $1 trillion. 7 years later, we've got 10 of them concentrated with $25 trillion of wealth in these 7-8 names. And so just goes to show like the 7-year performance for these stocks have just been out of this world. Nothing really comes close. No asset class, no amount of real estate or maybe crypto comes close. Maybe Bitcoin's 7-year return will be pretty comparable. to some of these stocks here as they have taken off, but it's just incredible amounts of wealth generation. Yeah, 2009, well, 2009 is 2015. Let's come over to 2017. Yeah, it's up a little bit over 9,000%. Bitcoin is. So, yeah, all this money printing flows back into the big companies. Amazon keeps pumping here. Amazon, oh my God, these OpenAI deals are just passing around money. That's literally what it feels like. What are the large gaps moving with IREN? The low of the candle is very extreme. What does this mean? So let's just go over to IREN. I have a friend who doesn't invest and has over $500,000 in 0% interest checkings. That's tough. That's really tough. I mean, if you're not investing in this market, well, in any market, I would say like long term, the goal should really be to invest as much as you can, as aggressively as you can to build wealth long term. Because if you're not investing, there's no other way to actually grow your wealth. Your money's not going to grow just sitting in the bank. After a certain point, once you've got a good amount of savings, you've got a good amount of emergency funds, and your debts are cleared, especially the high interest debt, anything over 4% is what I would say, like you need to clear that first. But any extra dollar needs to be invested in order for it to grow. And there's no right or wrong answer. It just depends on your level of comfort, your risk tolerance, and it just takes that first step. Once you overcome that first step, it becomes a lot easier to snowball from there. Some people feel a lot more comfortable with real estate. Some people feel comfortable with stocks. Some people feel comfortable with crypto, right? Given the volatility, but really figuring out what it is that you want to invest in and sticking with that strategy and that process. Okay, so IREN, we do have this longer trend line of higher lows that, of course, it continues to validate. Now we're starting to kind of move away from that, and we're mostly consolidating a little bit in that range where IREN, prior to this gap up, was obviously selling off a little bit in this lower high. And right now, we've got that resistance at $73, $74. So this is going to be that resistance to watch for IREN, with a support level at $48, $49 for IREN, right? So a lot of consolidation in that range. So John says, I think it's time to buy the dip on some defensives like Walmart and GLD. Let's take a look here. Walmart, this has obviously been a lot of underperformance, since November, December of 2024 from Walmart. Year to date, it's essentially flat. And you're right. I mean, it could be a very defensive play, but it really boils down to like, what is the main purpose of buying, defensives right now? Because if it's a tactical rotation away from technology and growth because you feel like that sector is overheated and you want to park your cash, then it becomes a little bit more of a timing trade as opposed to, buying Walmart on its own merits. If you like Walmart as an own company and you're like, okay, I want to buy some gold, and I like Walmart and I like gold and I like TLT, I want to be a bit more defensive, and these are the best ones out there, then it makes sense. But buying these just because the other sector is overheated or trading at a bit of a premium, I don't see that as a reasonable strategy, because the reason why they are trading at a bit of a premium is because there's a lot of excitement, a lot of demand, a lot of growth for those sectors. And any growth company, any growth stocks is going to have its volatility. I mean, you can't have a 10x growth without actually going through 50, 60, 70% corrections and crashes along the way. Look at Palantir, for example. It's come here to new all-time highs. I mean, it's gone up from $6 to $200. It's 3,400%. Was not possible without experiencing some of that pain. 85% from its all-time highs. It dropped for 2 years, 3 years in a row. It's just been selling off, and investors still had to stomach through a pretty substantial drop. I mean, this was a 48% drop. I mean, you're pretty much cut in half in terms of valuation. 30% drop here, 28% drop over here, another 31% drop. So that's what growth investing in growth stocks is all about. I mean, there's going to be a lot of volatility across the board. But the ones that come out ahead can be huge winners. Huge winners. Your friend will be ready to buy the dip whenever a correction happens. By the way, we didn't even go over. Does anyone want to take a guess on how much cash is Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett sitting on now? Anyone want to take a guess? Without reading the report, without reading the actual earnings, because they did come out with the report earlier. And so does anyone want to take a guess as to where Berkshire Hathaway, well, they did beat on EPS, coming in at $9,378 in earnings per share. Revenue was a small miss of just under $95 billion. Yeah, so they are sitting at a whopping $384 billion in cash. So scroll down a little bit. Berkshire Hathaway's cash hoard grew to a new high of $381.6 billion with no buybacks. I think this was the first quarter in a long time that Warren Buffett did not buy his own company shares. And so there were no buybacks, topping its previous records of $347.7 billion set earlier this year. They did not repurchase any shares, despite the fact that its stock has fallen by double digits since May. And they did report $13.48 billion in operating profit. A 200% surge in income from Berkshire's insurance and underwriting business helped boost the company's gains. And overall, the company's earnings grew 17% year over year to $30 billion. But yeah, they're sitting on almost $400 billion of cash, pure cash. If and when that opportunity strikes, I mean, they're gonna get calls after calls. They're gonna have people knocking on their door for liquidity. You know, I mean, it's not even the banks they're gonna reach out to. It's literally one person they're gonna be calling. And you know, when distressed deals come in, you know who makes the most money. It's the person with the most amount of cash sitting on the sidelines ready to deploy. They can do the deals on their terms, at their price points, everything at their say. So during times of distress, cash really is king. Cash really is king. You know, if you've seen the movie The Big Short, The Margin Call, and there's segments, there are pieces where Warren Buffett gets the call, you know, and obviously he's the one with the most amount of cash to do these deals. I think it's going to be closer to like 34, almost 40% cash now, in terms of their entire holdings. Might be closer to 30% cash is what they're sitting on, Berkshire Hathaway, which is a pretty large sum. I think the largest amount of percentage as a percentage of total assets is the largest I think we've seen for Warren Buffett. So Gary, Berkshire sold a lot before the tariff. Should we be worried and prepared? I think it's important to be prepared at all times. The cash percentage fluctuates a lot. And I think, you know, this is what we talk about here on the channel. Like, you know, moving around your cash exposure is quite literally the Buffett approach. I mean, that's what it is, because, you know, once the market gets overheated, there's a lot of premium, there's a lot of euphoria and greed, the risk reward is not that favorable. You know, what do we talk about? Like in our Discord, in our community, in our channels, what do we talk about? We talk about being cash ready. We talk about having a little bit extra cash sitting on the sidelines, and increasing that cash exposure as a percentage of your portfolio. And that number gets depleted when there are incredible opportunities, when the VIX is spiking, when the markets are crashing, and there's a lot of really good deals and discounts out there, and the risk reward starts to get better. That's when the risk reward is so good that we start deploying cash, and the cash as a percentage of the portfolio starts to come down. So that's really what it is. I mean, there's nothing more to it. It's just playing around with your cash exposure, and in market circumstances like right now, it starts to go up. And when there is the lack of, when there's lack of risk reward, then of course it goes up. And then when there's a lot of great deals and discounts, then it starts to go down because you're putting that money to work and you're investing. So Bruce, Berkshire Hathaway has missed a lot of growth in the last year. I mean, it's very easy to say that, but they are also managing over $1 trillion. I mean, it's not the same as managing $1,000 or 100,000 or even $1 million. I mean, for them, $1 million would be the equivalent for us a dollar. And so when you're managing large amounts of capital, you're not trying to capture all kinds of growth, right? You have to have a more strategic and a very, very well thought out approach to investing for the long term. And we know their 50-year performance, 5-decade performance is very strong. So, it's always funny then when people say, oh, Warren Buffett's missed out this growth, or he missed out this trade, or he missed out. Like, we're really cherry picking a very small data set of 1 month or 1 year or a few years. I mean, when you look at the last 50 years, he's been crushing the S&P 500, and at that scale, that longevity with the size of the capital is unheard of and unmatched. So, for me, he's going to always be the greatest to have ever done it, because size matters, as it always does, and that is why he's managing $1 trillion. Company valuation is $1 trillion. Berkshire's portfolio is hundreds of billions, and so scale and longevity. Longevity is also very important, right? So being able to do it for 5 decades is why he's the greatest. Are you buying Meta? So I mentioned earlier a little bit, Meta platforms. So I'm going to keep a close eye on how it trades today. It's already starting to move back higher. So I'm watching the 630 and 640s for Meta as a potential opportunity dollar cost average and buy a little bit more to then kind of flip and start selling some calls on Meta. So that would be the goal. But IREN's going to distract me a little bit today. It's 21% higher, so I might actually look into some buy rights for IREN. So pick up some shares, sell calls, at the money calls, because I think premiums are going to be huge for IREN today. I think it's going to be very, very lucrative to look into IREN calls. So yeah, so that's where we are. Market's about to open in about a couple minutes here. QQQ's up almost 1%. S&P 500, it's up 0.5%. Nvidia's getting up to almost $208, 2.5%. Amazon still sitting at a brand new all-time high at just under 256. Daylight savings also happened, and now the markets are going to close at 1 in the morning. Fantastic. If 12 a.m. wasn't bad enough, now we're talking 1 in the morning for market close here in Dubai, and I'm sure it must have changed for everybody in Europe and other parts of Southeast Asia because the US had daylight savings. So yeah, Meta is indeed oversold right now. Even on the 4-hour chart, it is very oversold at the moment. RSI 21, MACD, L3 banker oscillator, everything's just been selling off aggressively. So is capital gains tax a lot nicer in Dubai? Yes, absolutely, because there is none. So yeah, it's nice to not have to worry about when did I buy this? Is it short term? Is it long term? Or what our premiums are going to be taxed at? All that. Bruce, yeah, Melbourne 1:30 in the morning now. Need to sleep. I know. Melbourne, Sydney, Australia in general, very, very difficult market to trade if you are trading the US markets, because it seems completely disconnected. But by the time you do wake up, the markets are closing. So that's always good if you are an early rise. Yep, no capital gains tax or state or city or personal income. Yes, 100% of your capital gains. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of influx in Dubai over the last 5 years. Insane amount of people, just population just crossed 4.2 million in the size of the city of Dubai. It's just crazy. A lot of influx. People from all over. Australia, UK, Canada, Europe, India. But anyway, so markets open here. We are live. November has started, everybody. November 2025 is here, and we are starting with yet another bang with the NASDAQ pushing up over 1%. Looks like we are going to be starting the month of November with a new, almost new all-time highs here. Very close to it. And the S&P 500 is also up over 0.5%, close to 0.5%. trading up to 68.74, very close to all-time highs here. And here we go. Earnings are still important this month. Economic calendar is also packed, but we're not going to get a lot of data points. But Amazon also sitting and hitting a brand new all-time high right now. So thank you so much for joining, everybody. Again, link's going to be down below if you are interested in joining our Discord and, of course, our community. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, as we are launching our new MoneyVest design, the completely revamped version with the new data sets and models, and, of course, the launch of the MoneyVest app next year and all the courses and everything, the prices are going to go up. So if you want to lock this price in, link's going to be down below if you're interested in joining. Any questions, email me at admin@moneyvest.com, and I'm more than happy to help. And have a great start to your week. Happy Monday, and I'll see you all in the next